Big news this morning coming out of Washington. You can rest assured there likely won't be any more government shutdowns, at least until 2015. The U.S. House of Representatives has passed a 2-year budget agreement with support from both parties. The measure eases some of the across-the-board spending cuts known as the sequester. Nobody loves it, though. Conservatives have lingered concerns about spending levels, and Democrats worry because the bill does not extend unemployment benefits due to expire 3 days after Christmas. Now, despite all of those concerns, the bill is expected to pass in the Senate next week. We'll keep you posted.
New Mexico's only Republican in Washington, Congressman Steve Pierce, says this budget deal will hurt our state. He says it cuts New Mexico's mineral rights royalty payments, ultimately costing the state nearly $100 million in the next decade. Now, those are the royalties paid when oil, natural gas, coal, and other minerals are extracted from the land here. Schools and infrastructure projects, including roads and sewers, depend on these payments. Democratic Senators Tom Udall and Martin Heinrich say the budget includes a provision which would strengthen the missions at White Sands at Missile Range. Provisions to do the same at Fort Bliss, though, did not make the final cut.
The Albuquerque Journal is reporting that the lawyer for the Route 66 malt shop says Albuquerque's minimum wage ordinance is invalid. The argument is based on the way the measure was presented to voters last year. You see, Charles Latkins, the lawyer for the restaurant, is now saying the ordinance had several components that voters should have been allowed to vote on separately. He said that yesterday in district court. Now, the city argues the Supreme Court ordered the ordinance on the ballot, so it should stand. The New Mexico Court of Appeals will be asked to decide the issue. The appeals is part of the lawsuit, or this all comes from a lawsuit that the city of Albuquerque filed against the malt shop, alleging that the restaurant failed to pay the minimum wage.
If you want to hear what Bernalillo County's investment committee has to say about the investment policy, well, today's the day. The committee is meeting this morning downtown at 1 Civic Plaza. They'll be on the 10th floor in the conference room B. That meeting is open to everyone.
The county assessor's office values your property or assesses your property based on what it thinks it's worth. That value then determines how much you pay in property taxes. But what if you think your property is worth less? Well, you can protest that. But the process is daunting and you probably won't like the outcome. Out of nearly 6,000 protests in 2013, the Bernalillo County assessor didn't side with a single property owner to lower their property value. Jeanette Harmon was one of the lucky ones to win her protest in 2011. Her foundation is slipping under the soil, forcing walls to separate an inch or so from the floor and ceiling of her home. Almost every wall in every room is splitting.
The process is just difficult, too difficult.
But the protest process for Harmon is far from over. The county was set to raise her valuation because it believed the cracks in her house were fixed. Now, to see the rest of this story, you can watch Casa Fox tonight at 9 o'clock or click on our website at KRQE.com. An emotional funeral service as friends and family say goodbye to Sandoval County Sheriff's Sergeant Robert Barron.
He was a shining example of what a public servant should be. Competent and courageous, tenacious and tough, brave and dedicated.
A huge showing of law enforcement officers from around the state to honor Sergeant Barron yesterday. The procession went through Rio Rancho to the arena there. A car hit and killed Barron while he was investigating a crash on I-25 during last week's snowstorm. The deputy's widow spoke yesterday, specifically addressing the driver who hit her husband. Take a listen.
First, I'd like to address the driver that hit my husband. I can only imagine what you're feeling. And I want you to know that I hold no bitterness towards you. You are forgiven.
Barron also leaves behind a 10-year-old son. The DA's office has not decided if the driver will be charged. One of the men who helped turn the tide in the United States' favor in World War II has died. Navajo code talker Wilfred Billy died at his home Thursday in Farmington following a short illness. He was young Billy volunteered for the Marine. He was young when he volunteered for the Marines because he wanted to hang out with his friends who had enlisted. He was also among hundreds of Navajo code talkers who stumped the Japanese by relaying message in their native language. Wilfred Billy was 90 years old.
An outpouring of support for Bernalillo County Sheriff's Deputy Robin Hopkins, who says she is eager to get back on a job. It's the first time she has spoken publicly since she almost died after getting hit in a shooting spree in October. Deputy Hopkins is still in the hospital. Because of a flaw in the law enforcement pay system, her pay and benefits are getting cut. It sparked a huge uproar, and groups throughout the community have been raising money for her. Yesterday, Jackson's MMA and the Sheriff's Deputies Association gave her a check for more than $13,000.
This means a lot. It's gonna help, and I just, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Deputy Hopkins has 2 more surgeries ahead, at least 2, but she says she cannot wait to get back on the job. And despite everything that happened with her, her spirits there are still high, wishing her the best.
Yeah, absolutely. She looks great.